The Galactic Unity Council chamber floated in the darkness of space like a crystal crown. Inside the massive station called Zenith Prime, 847 different species gathered to discuss the future of their shared galaxy. Today, they would decide if humanity deserved a seat among them. Ambassador Park Min-jun stood at the center of the circular chamber. Thousands of eyes watched him from all directions. Some were familiar eyes that looked almost human. Others were completely alien, belonging to beings made of crystal, gas, or pure energy. Min-jun felt the weight of their attention, but he did not let fear show on his face. "Honored members of the council," Min-jun began, his voice steady and clear. 15 years ago, Earth joined this great assembly as a provisional member. Today, I ask you to grant humanity full membership status. He touched a control pad, and holographic images appeared around him. The first image showed human doctors working alongside alien healers. We have shared our medical knowledge freely with 73 species. The cancer treatment humans developed has saved millions of lives across the galaxy. The next image showed human peacekeepers helping to rebuild a war-torn planet. When the Zephyr colonies needed protection, humanity sent our forces, but we did not conquer. We did not demand payment. We protected the innocent and left when peace returned. More images flowed past. Human teachers in alien schools, human engineers helping to build homes on distant worlds, human artists creating music that brought different species together. We believe that strength comes from compassion, Min-jun said. We believe that cooperation builds more than conquest ever could. We believe that understanding others makes us all stronger. These are the values humanity brings to this council. We ask only for the chance to serve alongside you as equals. The chamber remained silent when he finished. Min-jun bowed respectfully and left through the designated exit. As the door closed behind him, he thought he saw something strange in Chairman Velroth's reptilian eyes. Something cold and calculating. But perhaps he had imagined it. Inside the chamber, Chairman Velroth rose from his elevated seat. His scales gleamed under the soft lights. "The human has left us with much to consider," he said slowly. "Let us take our official vote." The vote was recorded properly. 412 species voted to grant Earth full membership. 435 voted against it or abstained. The numbers appeared on screens throughout the chamber, transmitted to every council world. Earth's application was officially denied due to insufficient support. "The matter is settled," Velroth announced. "The official record will show that Earth must wait another 5 years before applying again. This session is now concluded." Most of the council members began to leave. Their various forms floated, walked, or teleported toward the exits. But Velroth raised one clawed hand. "Senior council members, please remain," he said. "We have one more matter to discuss." The junior delegates and observers left. The chamber doors sealed shut with a heavy sound that echoed in the now much emptier space. Only the most powerful species representatives remained, 200 of them, from the oldest and strongest civilizations. Velroth's voice changed. The diplomatic warmth disappeared. "Now we discuss the real issue, Resolution 7749X, the human problem." Ambassador Thal of the Vextar, an insectoid being with 4 arms and compound eyes, shifted uncomfortably. "What problem? The humans have been exemplary provisional members." "That is precisely the problem," Velroth said. He touched a control and new images appeared. These showed human diplomats forming close friendships with alien species. Human emotional counselors helping aliens process trauma. Human philosophers teaching classes about empathy and moral reasoning. "Look at what they do," Velroth continued. "Everywhere humans go, they spread dangerous ideas. They teach others to question authority. They encourage emotional thinking over logical hierarchy. They form attachments across species barriers that should never be crossed. Counselor Yira, a being of living crystal that reflected light in beautiful patterns, spoke in a voice like wind chimes. Surely compassion is not dangerous? It is when it threatens order, Velroth replied sharply. This council has maintained peace for 12,000 years. We have done so through clear hierarchies, through established protocols, through species knowing their proper place. Humans reject all of this. They believe in equality. They believe in universal rights. They believe that feelings matter as much as facts. He paused, letting his words sink in. If we allow humanity full membership, their ideas will spread like infection. Within a generation, every species will question our authority. The order we have built will collapse. Chaos will return. So what do you propose? Asked a delegate whose body was made of flowing water. We vote again, Velroth said. This vote will not be recorded in official minutes. Resolution 7749X states that Earth's application will be permanently denied. Furthermore, humanity will be confined to their solar system through a military blockade. We will call it a protective quarantine for their own safety. You propose imprisoning an entire species? Thal's voice rose with alarm. I propose protecting galactic stability, Velroth countered. We have all seen what happens when species advance too quickly with too much emotion and too little discipline. Wars that destroy entire star systems. That is what we prevent today. The vote was called. Species pressed buttons on their consoles. Some hesitated. Some voted immediately. When the count finished, the result appeared only on Velroth's private screen. 731 in favor, he announced. 116 against. Resolution. 7749X is approved. The military blockade will begin within 30 days. This vote and this discussion are classified at the highest level. Any species that reveals what happened here will face immediate expulsion and economic sanctions. Are we clear? The chamber filled with murmured agreements. Only Thal and Yira remained silent, their body language showing disagreement they could not voice. This session is now truly concluded, Velroth said. Remember, we do this to preserve peace. Far from the council station, aboard the human diplomatic ship Harmony's Promise, Min Jun sat in his quarters and stared at Earth through the window. The blue planet hung in the distance, beautiful and unaware of what had just been decided in secret. Dr. Choi Seo-yeon, the ship's xenopsychologist, entered without knocking. She had worked with Min Jun for 8 years and could read his moods better than anyone. You feel it too, she said quietly. It was not a question. Something was wrong in that chamber, Min Jun replied. The way Velroth looked at me when I finished speaking, the silence after the vote. Something happened after I left. Maybe you are just disappointed by the result. No, this is different. Min Jun turned to face her. Seo-yeon, I have been in hundreds of diplomatic meetings. I know the difference between disagreement and something else. Something dangerous. Choi Seo-yeon sat down beside him. What can we do? We have no evidence of anything wrong. I know, Min Jun said. Maybe I am imagining threats that do not exist. Maybe I am tired. But deep in his gut, Min Jun knew the truth. The council had made a decision about humanity today, and whatever that decision was, it had not been recorded in any official minutes. In the darkness between stars, council military ships began moving into position around Earth's solar system. The crews had their orders. The blockade was beginning, and humanity still had no idea that their greatest test was coming. 3 months had passed since Earth's application for full council membership was denied. Life continued as it always had. Humans still worked alongside alien species. They still explored the galaxy. They still believed in the future the Council represented. Captain Lee J. Wan commanded the Earth science vessel Curiosity's Call, a small ship designed for deep space research. His crew of 12 humans specialized in studying ancient alien civilizations. They were explorers and archaeologists, not warriors. Their ship carried no weapons heavier than personal sidearms for emergency protection. Today, they orbited a forgotten space station called Echo 7. It hung in neutral space, far from any inhabited system. According to old records, Echo 7 had been built 7,000 years ago as a data repository. When better technology came along, the Council had simply abandoned it. But the station still had power. Its systems still functioned. "Why would they leave it running?" asked Kim Da-eun, the ship's junior communications officer. She was young, barely 25 years old, with a gift for understanding alien computer systems. "That seems wasteful." "Different era, different priorities," Captain Lee replied. He floated through the zero gravity of Echo 7's main computer core, examining the ancient machinery. "Back then, energy was abundant and cheap. Shutting down systems probably seemed like more trouble than it was worth." Da-eun ran her gloved hand along a data terminal. The screen flickered to life at her touch. "Captain, these systems are still receiving data. Look at the timestamps. This file came in 3 months ago. This one arrived yesterday." Lee pushed himself over to her position. "That cannot be right. The Council abandoned this station centuries ago. Why would they still be sending data here?" "Maybe they forgot about it," Da-eun suggested. "Big organizations lose track of things all the time. This could be an automated backup system that nobody remembered to disconnect." Lee studied the flowing alien text on the screen. "Can you access the files?" "They are encrypted," Da-eun said. "But these are old encryption standards. I learned about them in academy training. If you give me a few days, I could probably crack them." "Do it," Lee decided. "But be careful. We are guests in Council space. We do not want to accidentally access classified information." Da-eun smiled. "If it has been sitting here in an abandoned station for months, how classified can it be?" She started working on the encryption during her off-duty hours, treating it as an interesting puzzle rather than serious work. The old Council encryption was complex, but not impossible. It used mathematical formulas that required patience and creativity to solve. 5 days later, Da-eun finally broke through the encryption. At first, the file seemed boring. Meeting schedules, supply requisitions, maintenance reports from various Council facilities. She almost gave up and went to bed. Then she opened a file marked with a strange designation, Resolution 7749X. Unlike the others, this file had no official Council seals. It had no proper authorization codes. It was just raw data, as if someone had recorded a meeting and hidden the recording away. Da-eun began reading. Her eyes grew wider with each line. Her hands started shaking. 20 minutes later, she burst into Captain Lee's quarters without knocking. He was reviewing star charts and looked up in surprise at her sudden entrance. "Captain, you need to see this," she said breathlessly. "Right now." They went to the communication station together. Da-eun pulled up the file and let Lee read it in silence. His expression changed from curiosity to shock to anger as he scrolled through the document. The file contained everything. The secret vote after Earth's official application was denied. Chairman Velroth's speech about humans being dangerous because of their compassion. The discussion of how human ideas about empathy and equality threatened Council hierarchy. The 731 species who voted to imprison humanity in their own solar system. The plans for a military blockade disguised as protective quarantine. "This cannot be real," Lee whispered. "This must be some kind of mistake or forgery." "I checked the encryption signatures," Da-eun said. "They are genuine Council codes. This file came directly from Zenith Prime's main computer system. It is real, Captain. The Council voted to trap us, to make sure we never truly join them. Lee read the file again, more carefully this time. His training had taught him to verify information before reacting, but every detail checked out. The species names matched known Council members. The voting patterns aligned with political alliances he knew existed. The technical specifications for the blockade ships matched Council military standards. "We need to take this to Earth immediately," he said finally. "What about the rest of the crew?" Da-Un asked. "Do we tell them?" "We tell them everything," Lee decided. "They deserve to know. This affects all of humanity." He called a ship-wide meeting in the small common area. The 12 crew members gathered, confused by the emergency summons. Captain Lee explained what Da-Un had found. He played the file on the common screen so everyone could read it themselves. The reactions varied. Some crew members became angry. Others seemed frightened. A few questioned if they should have left the file alone. "We have to ask ourselves a hard question," Lee said after giving them time to process. "Do we report this through official Council channels, or do we take it directly to Earth?" "If we report it to the Council, they will know we found it," said Park Hyun-woo, the ship's engineer. "They might try to stop us from reaching Earth, or worse. But if we go straight to Earth without reporting, we violate diplomatic protocols," countered Dr. Song Min-ji, the head archaeologist. "That could cause a crisis by itself." Da-Un spoke up quietly. "The Council has already violated every protocol by holding a secret vote to imprison an entire species. Why should we follow their rules when they do not follow their own?" The debate continued for an hour. Finally, they voted. 12 humans, 12 votes. The result was unanimous. They would take the evidence directly to Earth. Humanity deserved to know the truth. "Set course for home," Captain Lee ordered. "Maximum speed. We need to get there before—" An alarm blared through the ship. Da-Un rushed to her communications console, her fingers flying across the controls. Her face went pale. "Captain, Echo 7's automated systems just activated a security protocol. It detected our data access and sent an alert to Council military headquarters. They know we have the file." "How long until they respond?" Lee asked, his voice calm despite the danger. "Unknown. But if they want to stop us from reaching Earth—" She did not need to finish the sentence. Everyone understood. Council military ships were faster than Curiosity's call, better armed, better crewed. "Plot the fastest course home," Lee ordered. "Redirect all non-essential power to engines. Send an encrypted message ahead to Ambassador Park. Tell him we are coming with evidence he needs to see immediately." "What should I say?" Da-Un asked. Lee thought for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "Tell him. The Council fears what makes us human. Evidence following. Earth must know." The message launched into space, traveling at faster than light speeds toward Earth. Minutes later, Curiosity's call broke orbit around Echo 7 and accelerated toward home. Behind them, on Zenith Prime, alarms sounded in Council military command. Officers scrambled to their stations. Chairman Velroth was awakened from sleep and informed that a human ship had accessed classified data at Echo 7. "Send an intercept force," Velroth ordered coldly. "Fast attack ships. Do not let them reach Earth. If necessary, disable their vessel and confiscate all data storage. But do it quietly. Make it look like a navigation accident." "What if they resist?" asked the military commander. Velroth's eyes narrowed. "They are a science ship with no weapons. They cannot resist. Just make sure they do not reach human space with that information. The blockade is not fully in position yet. If Earth learns what we have planned, they might actually fight back, and that would force us to take more drastic action." Across the galaxy, 6 Council military vessels changed course and accelerated toward human space. They would reach the intercept point in approximately 26 hours. Aboard Curiosity's call, Captain Lee Jae-won, stared at the navigation display showing their course home. He had been a ship captain for 11 years. He had never imagined he would spend those years running from the very council he had sworn to respect. But the evidence was clear. The council did not want peace with humanity. They wanted control. They feared human compassion so much that they would imprison an entire species to protect their precious hierarchy. "How long until we reach Earth?" he asked. 28 hours at maximum speed," answered the navigator. 2 hours too many, Lee thought. The council would catch them before they reached safety. But giving up was not an option. Somewhere on Earth, families lived their normal lives. Children went to school. People fell in love and made plans for the future. They all deserved to know the truth about the cage the council was building around their world. "Keep us at maximum speed," Lee ordered, "and everyone get some rest while you can. The next day is going to be difficult." The encrypted message from Curiosity's call reached Earth 6 hours before the ship itself would arrive. Ambassador Park Min-jun received it in the middle of the night. He read it 3 times, his heart sinking further with each reading. By dawn, Earth's Security Council had assembled an emergency session. 20 representatives from different nations gathered in the secure conference room in Geneva. Dr. Choi Seo-yeon joined them via holographic link from the diplomatic station orbiting Mars. "This could be a hoax," suggested General Martinez from the Americas. "Some kind of test or trick." "Captain Lee is not someone who panics easily," Min-jun replied. "If he says he has evidence, then he has evidence, and his message was clear. The Council fears us." "Fears us for what?" asked Director Zhang from the Asian Coalition. "We have no super weapons. We have not threatened anyone. We barely have enough ships to defend our own solar system." Dr. Choi's hologram flickered as she leaned forward. "That is the point. They do not fear our weapons. They fear our ideas. They fear what we represent." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she meant, but nobody wanted to say it aloud. "We need to wait for Captain Lee to arrive with the full evidence before making any decisions," said Prime Minister Okonkwo from the African Union. "We have 6 hours. Let us use that time to prepare for all possibilities." Those 6 hours felt like 6 days. Defense forces went on high alert. Diplomatic channels stayed open but silent, and everyone waited. Curiosity's call entered Earth's solar system exactly when expected. But they were not alone. 3 Council military ships followed close behind, clearly visible on long-range scanners. "Unidentified human vessel. This is Council Defense Force," a voice crackled over the radio in accented English. "You are ordered to stop your engines and prepare for inspection. You have accessed classified information without authorization. Comply immediately." Captain Lee Jae-won did not slow down. "This is Captain Lee Jae-won of the Earth science vessel Curiosity's call. We are returning to our home planet with evidence of Council crimes against humanity. You have no authority to stop us in our own solar system." "We are authorized to enforce Council law anywhere in civilized space," the alien voice replied. "Stop your ship, or we will disable it by force." "Try it," Lee said quietly, then switched to Earth's defense frequency. "This is Curiosity's call requesting immediate protection. Council ships are threatening to fire on us." The response was instant. "Curiosity's call. This is Earth Defense Command. Hold your current course. We have 6 patrol ships moving to intercept. Do not engage." What happened next would be studied in military academies for years. Earth's patrol ships positioned themselves between Curiosity's call and the Council vessels. It was not an aggressive formation. The human ships did not power weapons or make threats. They simply blocked the path, forcing the Council ships to either stop or start a shooting war. The Council ships stopped. They had come to quietly prevent a data breach, not to begin an interstellar war. Captain Lee brought his ship safely to Earth's largest orbital station. Within an hour, he and Kim Da-eun stood before the Security Council. showing them everything they had found at Echo 7. The evidence was worse than Minjun had feared. The deleted minutes revealed not just the secret vote against humanity, but the Council's entire reasoning. Humans were too emotional, too compassionate, too willing to question authority. They formed dangerous attachments across species. They spread ideas about equality and universal rights. They are afraid of empathy itself, Dr. Choi said after reviewing the files. From a xenopsychological perspective, this makes sense. Most Council species fought terrible wars before joining. They learned to associate emotion with violence. When they see humans combining deep feelings with rational action, it confuses them. It threatens everything they believe about how civilizations should work. So what do we do? Asked Director Zhang. We cannot fight the entire Council. We would lose. We could accept the blockade, suggested General Martinez reluctantly. Stay in our solar system. Focus on building our strength. Maybe in a few centuries we would be powerful enough to challenge them. No, Minjun said firmly. Everyone turned to look at him. We do not accept this, and we do not fight with weapons. Then what do you suggest? Prime Minister Okonkwo asked. We fight with truth, Minjun replied. We release these deleted minutes to every species in the galaxy. All 847 of them. Let everyone see what the Council does in secret. Let them decide if this is the kind of leadership they want. The room erupted in debate. Some called the plan brilliant. Others called it suicidal. Releasing classified Council documents would be seen as an act of aggression. It might start the very war they were trying to avoid. They have already voted for war against us, Kim Da-eun pointed out. They just decided to make it a quiet war, a war of imprisonment instead of bombs, but it is still war. Dr. Choi nodded slowly. She is right. The Council has already taken hostile action. Releasing the truth is not aggression. It is defense. The debate continued for hours. Finally, they voted. 15 supported releasing the deleted minutes galaxy-wide. 5 voted against. The decision was made. Lieutenant Shin Yu-jin, Earth's top communications strategist, was called to the meeting. She was a specialist in ensuring messages could not be blocked or intercepted. At 32 years old, she had already developed 3 new encryption methods that were now standard across human space. Can you create a transmission that will reach every registered communication device in Council space? Minjun asked her. Something they cannot block or shut down? Shin Yu-jin studied the specifications for a moment. Yes, if I use distributed relay points and multiple frequency bands simultaneously, it will be expensive. Use up a lot of power. But it will work. They would need to shut down their entire communication network to stop it. How long do you need? 12 hours to set up. Then the transmission itself takes about 30 minutes to reach all destinations. You have 10 hours, Minjun said. We need to move fast before the Council tries to stop us. Shin Yu-jin worked with Kim Da-eun through the night. They prepared the transmission carefully. The deleted minutes went first, raw and unedited. Then they added humanity's response. Not threats, not military demands, just questions. Why does compassion threaten you? Why does cooperation frighten you? Why do you fear beings who care about each other? What kind of peace is built on hidden lies? What other secrets have you kept from your own people? The message was simple, direct, impossible to misunderstand. At exactly 9 in the morning Earth time, Lieutenant Shin activated the transmission. The signal burst from Earth across hundreds of relay points throughout known space. It reached Council worlds, independent colonies, trading stations, diplomatic posts, and private ships. Everywhere there was a registered communication device. The message arrived. 847 species learned the truth at almost the same moment. The reactions came fast. On the Vextar homeworld, Ambassador Thal immediately called for Chairman Velroth's resignation. He had voted against the secret resolution, and now he had proof to show his people why. The lumini, whose crystalline forms made them naturally transparent beings, declared that truth must always come before political convenience. On smaller worlds, worlds that had always felt intimidated by the powerful council species, people gathered in public spaces to watch the evidence. They asked questions that had never been safe to ask before. What else has the council hidden? Who else have they imprisoned in secret? What happened to species who disagreed with them? But not everyone was happy. On militaristic worlds like the Vorian home planet, citizens saw the release as an attack on order itself. They argued that humans had stolen classified data and weaponized it. Some called for immediate military action against Earth. The council itself descended into chaos. Emergency sessions were called. Delegates shouted at each other in the chambers. Chairman Velroth tried to maintain control, but his authority was crumbling. Too many species were demanding answers he could not give without admitting guilt. On Earth, the Security Council watched the reactions flow in. Some were encouraging, many were frightening. The galaxy was splitting into factions faster than anyone had predicted. "We may have just started a civil war," General Martinez said quietly. "No," Dr. Choi replied. "We just revealed a civil war that was already happening. The council has been suppressing dissent for centuries. We simply showed everyone the truth." Min-jun stared at the communication screens, showing thousands of messages arriving every minute. Some thanked humanity for their courage. Some cursed them for destroying stability. All of them demanded more information. "What happens now?" asked Director Zhang. "Now we wait," Min-jun said. "We have thrown a stone into still water. We will see what the ripples reveal." Hours passed. Then a new message arrived from Zenith Prime. It was marked with the highest priority codes. Chairman Velroth's face appeared on the screen. He looked exhausted and angry, but his voice remained controlled. "Ambassador Park Min-jun of Earth," he said formally. "The Council grants your request for a full public session. You will come to Zenith Prime unarmed to present your case before all member species. This session will be broadcast throughout the galaxy. Nothing will be hidden. Nothing will be deleted. You wanted transparency. You will have it." The transmission ended. Min-jun sat back in his chair, unsure if he should feel victorious or terrified. They had forced the Council's hand. But now they would have to face 847 species and defend their actions. "When do they want us there?" asked Prime Minister Okonkwo. 3 days, Min-jun replied after checking the details. 3 days to prepare the most important speech of my life. Dr. Choi smiled slightly. "You will not be alone. Captain Lee, Kim Da-eun, and I will come with you. And I suspect the 116 species who voted against the secret resolution will support us too. That still leaves 731 against us," General Martinez pointed out. "Then we better be very convincing," Min-jun said. Zenith Prime had never seen so many beings gathered in one place. The main council chamber expanded to accommodate everyone who wanted to attend. Representatives from all 847 species came. Billions more watched from their home worlds through live broadcasts that reached every corner of civilized space. Ambassador Park Min-jun walked into the chamber alongside Captain Lee Jae-won, Dr. Choi Seo-yeon, and Kim Da-eun. They wore simple formal clothes with no weapons, no guards, no displays of power. Behind them came representatives from the 116 species who had voted against the secret resolution. Ambassador Thal of the Vextar walked beside them, his insectoid form moving with dignity. Chairman Velroth sat in his elevated position, but he looked diminished somehow. The absolute authority he once commanded had cracked. Too many species now questioned his leadership. "This session is called to order," Velroth announced. His voice echoed through the vast chamber. "We are here to address the charges brought by humanity against this council. Ambassador Park, you may speak." Min-jun stepped forward. He felt the weight of billions of eyes watching him. This moment would define humanity's future in the galaxy. He took a breath and began. "Thank you, Chairman. I do not come here to make accusations. I come to ask questions, questions that every species in this chamber deserves to have answered." He gestured, and holographic displays appeared showing the deleted minutes. "This document proves that after my official presentation 3 months ago, this council held a second secret vote. 731 species voted to permanently deny Earth's membership and to imprison humanity in our solar system through military blockade. This vote was not recorded. This discussion was not shared with any citizens. It was hidden." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Even species who supported the decision looked uncomfortable seeing it displayed so publicly. "My question is simple," Min-Jun continued. "Why? Why did this council fear humanity so much that it had to act in secret?" Before Velroth could respond, Councillor Drex of the Vorian species stood. The Vorians were a militant culture that valued strength and hierarchy above all else. Drex's voice boomed across the chamber. "I will answer that question honestly," Drex said. "We feared you because you are dangerous, not because of your weapons, not because of your technology, but because you spread chaos wherever you go." He pointed at Min-Jun. "You teach other species to question their leaders. You encourage emotional thinking over rational discipline. You form attachments that cross proper species boundaries. You speak of equality and universal rights as if hierarchy is not the natural order of civilization. These ideas are poison. They destabilize the order that has kept peace for 12,000 years. Many species applauded Drex's words. The chamber filled with sounds of agreement from those who valued stability above all else. Min-Jun waited for silence before responding. "You say our ideas are dangerous. But dangerous to whom? Dangerous to peace, or dangerous to your power?" "They are the same thing," Drex shot back. "Without proper hierarchy, without clear authority, there is only chaos and war. Emotion leads to conflict. We learned this through blood and fire. Most species in this chamber fought devastating wars before we joined the council and accepted discipline." "That is exactly right," Dr. Choi said, stepping forward. She had asked permission to speak if the opportunity came. "You learned to associate emotion with violence. You experienced wars driven by rage and fear. So you built a civilization that suppressed all emotion, believing that was the only path to peace." She activated her own display, showing psychological data and case studies. "But humanity offers a different path. We do not suppress emotion. We develop emotional intelligence. We learn to feel deeply while thinking clearly. We experience compassion without losing rationality. This is not chaos. This is evolution." She showed examples of human peacekeepers who had resolved conflicts through understanding rather than force. Human diplomats who had negotiated solutions by recognizing the emotional needs driving each side. Human teachers who had helped traumatized aliens process their feelings in healthy ways. "You fear emotion because you never learned to master it," Dr. Choi said gently. "But we have. And that terrifies you because it proves your entire philosophy might be wrong." The chamber erupted in argument. Some species called Dr. Choi's words brilliant. Others called them offensive. Chairman Velroth hammered for order, but the chaos continued for several minutes. When silence finally returned, Kim Da-yoon asked for permission to speak. The young communications officer looked nervous but determined. "I found something else at Echo 7, she said quietly. "While I was searching the old data archives, I discovered that the deleted minutes about humanity were not the only secret files." She activated a new display. More hidden documents appeared, spanning thousands of years of council history. "I found 47 other resolutions that were voted on in secret and then deleted from official records. 47 times when the council made decisions that citizens never knew about. The chamber went silent. Every being stared at the display in shock. Kim Da-un highlighted specific examples. Resolution 4198. The council voted to suppress a breakthrough in faster-than-light travel developed by the Quinn species because it would have made their fleet dominance obsolete. Resolution 6723. The council voted to secretly redistribute resources from smaller species to maintain the military strength of the powerful ones. Resolution 3844. The council conducted covert military action against a colony that tried to establish independent government. Each revelation hit like a bomb. Species who thought they had been treated fairly realized they had been manipulated. Smaller civilizations who had trusted the council learned they had been exploited. The foundation of trust that held the galaxy together crumbled with every word. How many species have been lied to? Kim Da-un asked. How many breakthroughs have been suppressed? How many voices have been silenced? The council built peace, yes, but they built it on hidden control, not honest cooperation. Ambassador Thal rose to his full height, all four of his arms spread wide. I voted against the secret resolution about humanity because I believed it was wrong. Now I learn that my own species may have been victims of similar actions. Chairman Velroth, I call for your immediate resignation and the establishment of a transparency commission to review all council actions. Dozens of other species representatives stood and voiced agreement. The calls for Velroth's resignation grew louder and louder. Counselor Yira, the crystalline being whose body literally could not hide anything, spoke in her wind chime voice. My people believe in transparency as a fundamental value. We joined this council because we thought it shared that value. We were wrong. I propose that humanity lead the Transparency Commission. They are the only species who have proven willing to demand truth even when it costs them. Absolutely not, Drex shouted. You cannot reward them for stealing classified data. They have destroyed the order we built. They have turned species against each other. This is exactly the chaos I warned about. No, Minjun said firmly. We revealed the chaos that already existed. We did not create division. We exposed the division that you were hiding. There is a difference. Chairman Velroth finally stood. His reptilian features looked ancient and tired. I resign my position as council chairman effective immediately. A temporary coalition government will be formed to manage the transition, and I accept the proposal for a transparency commission. He looked directly at Minjun. But understand this, Ambassador. You have shattered something that took 12,000 years to build. You released forces you cannot control. Some species will support reform. Many will resist. The galaxy may fragment into factions. Violence may return. Whatever happens next, the responsibility falls partly on you. Minjun met his gaze without flinching. I accept that responsibility. But I also know that peace built on lies was never real peace. It was just delayed conflict. Better to face the truth now than to let the lies continue until they collapse on their own. Velroth nodded slowly, almost respectfully, then left the chamber. Other delegates followed, some to celebrate, some to plan resistance. Ambassador Thal approached the human delegation. We have much work ahead of us. Forming a coalition government will be difficult. Many species will refuse to participate. Some may even leave the council entirely. We knew this would not be easy, Minjun replied. Truth rarely is. Over the next hours, a temporary government took shape. Representatives from humans, Vextar, Lumini, and 15 other species who strongly supported transparency formed the core leadership. They would manage council affairs while reforms were developed. But as predicted, not everyone accepted the changes. 194 species formally withdrew from the council, led by Councillor Drex and the Vorians. They formed a rival organization called the Sovereignty Alliance, dedicated to maintaining hierarchical power structures and traditional order. The galaxy had split in two. As the session finally ended and delegates dispersed, Captain Lee found Minjun standing alone, looking out at the stars. "Do you think we made the right choice?" Lee asked quietly. Minjun was silent for a long moment. "I think we made the only choice that let us stay human. If we had accepted the blockade, accepted being imprisoned for our compassion, we would have started changing ourselves to fit their expectations. Within a generation, we would have become as cold and hierarchical as them. We would have survived, but we would have lost what made us worth saving. And now? Now we see if truth and transparency can actually build something better than what came before, or if Velroth was right, and we have just doomed the galaxy to chaos." They stood together, watching ships depart Zenith Prime in all directions. Some headed toward Council worlds, ready to embrace reform. Others headed toward Sovereignty Alliance space, where traditional order would be maintained by force if necessary. The future was uncertain. The path ahead was dangerous, but humanity had made their choice. They would rather face an honest struggle than accept a comfortable lie. And across the galaxy, billions of beings made their own choices about what kind of civilization they wanted to build. 6 months had passed since the galaxy split in two. The Galactic Unity Council, reformed under new transparency protocols, now consisted of 653 species committed to open governance. The Sovereignty Alliance claimed 194 species who preferred traditional hierarchical structures. The division ran deeper than politics. It represented two completely different philosophies about how civilization should work. Ambassador Park Min-jun now served as co-chairman of the Transparency Commission alongside Ambassador Thal. They worked from the rebuilt council chambers on Zenith Prime, though the station felt different now. The old atmosphere of quiet authority had been replaced by something noisier, messier, but somehow more alive. Every council session was broadcast live. Every vote was recorded and published. Citizens from any species could submit questions that their representatives had to answer publicly. The old guard hated it. They complained that governance had become chaos. But young beings across the galaxy watched in fascination, seeing leaders held accountable for the first time. Not everyone was happy with the reforms. The Sovereignty Alliance grew stronger each week. They positioned military fleets along border regions, claiming the reformed council threatened stability. Councillor Drex, now the Alliance's de facto leader, gave speeches about the necessity of order and discipline. "The humans have infected the galaxy with their emotional chaos," Drex declared in one broadcast that reached millions. "They have turned species against their leaders. They have made governance impossible through their demands for constant transparency. Order requires strength. Hierarchy requires respect. We will preserve these values even if the rest of the galaxy abandons them." The rhetoric grew hotter. Military buildup increased on both sides. Diplomatic channels froze. It seemed inevitable that words would turn to violence. That was when Dr. Choi Seo-yeon proposed something radical. She presented her idea to the reformed council leadership in a small conference room on Zenith Prime. Min-jun, Thal, and representatives from the core reform species listened carefully. "We cannot win a military conflict with the Sovereignty Alliance," Dr. Choi began. "They have more ships, more weapons, and more experience with warfare. But we do not need to fight them. We need to show them an alternative." She activated a presentation showing her proposal. "I call it the Empathy Exchange Program. We send unarmed human ambassadors to live among Sovereignty Alliance species, not to spy, not to sabotage, simply to exist as examples of emotional intelligence in practice." Ambassador Thal's antennae twitched with interest. What would these ambassadors do? They would help with conflict resolution, share medical knowledge, teach communication techniques, assist with trauma counseling. all the things humans do well because of our emotional approach. But they would do it while living as guests in Alliance space, proving that compassion is not weakness. The Alliance will see it as cultural imperialism, warned Counselor Yira. An attempt to change them from within. Perhaps, Dr. Choi acknowledged, but we offer it as a choice. Any Alliance world that wants human assistance can request it. Those that do not want it can refuse. We respect their sovereignty. We just give them the option to see our way of life firsthand. The debate lasted hours. Many considered the plan naive or even dangerous. Humans would be vulnerable in Alliance space. They could be imprisoned, hurt, or worse. But the alternative was war that nobody wanted. Finally, they voted. The Empathy Exchange program was approved. Lieutenant Shin Yu-jin volunteered to lead the first ambassador cohort. After her success with the galaxy-wide broadcast, she had become somewhat famous. Many saw her as a symbol of humanity's commitment to truth and transparency. She assembled a team of 30 humans. Doctors, teachers, mediators, engineers, counselors, all volunteers, all aware of the risks. They spent 3 weeks training in Alliance cultures and customs, learning to communicate without being preachy or condescending. On the day of departure, Captain Lee Jae-won insisted on commanding the escort ship. Curiosity's call would take the ambassadors to the border and wait nearby in case emergency extraction was needed. They traveled to the meeting point in neutral space. 6 Sovereignty Alliance ships waited for them, weapons powered but not targeted. It was a tense moment as the 2 small fleets faced each other. Counselor Drex himself appeared on the communication channel. His scaled face filled the screen, expression unreadable. "So the humans come to save us from ourselves," Drex said with something like amusement. "You think your compassion can fix what you call our flaws?" Lieutenant Shin responded carefully. "We do not think you are broken. We think there are different ways to build civilization. We offer to share our way, not to impose it. 23 worlds in your alliance requested human assistance. We are here for them, not to convince you. And what happens when your assistance turns those worlds against us? When they start demanding transparency and emotional governance like the Reformed Council?" "Then they will have made that choice themselves," Shin replied. "We respect free will, even when beings choose paths we disagree with. That is what makes us different from the old council. We do not decide for others. We just offer options." Drex was silent for a long moment. "Your ship may pass, but understand this. We will watch these ambassadors closely. Any sign of espionage or sabotage, and they will be expelled. Any attempt to undermine Alliance unity, and we will consider it an act of war." "Understood," Shin said. "We ask only for the chance to prove ourselves through actions, not words." The Alliance ships opened a corridor. Curiosity's call moved forward carefully, crossing into Sovereignty Alliance space for the first time. Captain Lee stopped at the border while a smaller transport took the ambassadors to their assigned worlds. Shin and her team were distributed across 23 different planets. Each went to worlds that had specifically requested help. Most were smaller species who felt pressured into joining the Alliance but harbored doubts about pure hierarchical governance. The work began slowly. Shin was assigned to a world called Nexar 4, home to a species called the Meltari. They were beings of living metal who communicated through electromagnetic pulses. The Meltari had joined the Alliance seeking stability after a devastating civil war, but many still struggled with trauma. At first, the Meltari leaders were suspicious of Shin. They assigned guards to watch her constantly. They restricted where she could go and who she could meet. She accepted these limitations without complaint and simply did her work. She started small. A Meltari factory was having disputes between workers and supervisors. Shin offered to mediate. She listened to both sides, helped them articulate their feelings, and guided them to a solution that addressed emotional needs instead of just imposing authority. The dispute resolved peacefully. Word spread. Other Meltari groups requested her help. A school struggling with student conflicts, a hospital where staff suffered from stress and burnout, a community dealing with grief after losing members in an industrial accident. Shin never pushed her philosophy. She just showed it through action, listening deeply, validating emotions, helping beings process feelings in healthy ways, teaching communication techniques that acknowledged both logic and emotion. 3 months later, something remarkable happened. The Meltari leaders who had been watching Shin submitted a request to the Reformed Council. They wanted to learn more about emotional intelligence training. Not to leave the Alliance, but to incorporate new approaches into their existing structures. Similar stories played out on other worlds, not everywhere. Some Alliance species rejected the human ambassadors completely, but on those 23 worlds where humans had been invited, subtle changes began. Leaders started asking citizens how they felt about policies, not just whether they obeyed. Schools added emotional development to their curriculums alongside technical training. Hospitals created counseling programs to help patients process trauma. Counselor Drex watched these changes with growing frustration. At an Alliance leadership meeting, he argued that humans were doing exactly what he feared, spreading their values, undermining hierarchy. But when he proposed expelling all human ambassadors, something unexpected happened. Representatives from those 23 worlds stood to defend them. They argued that humans had helped their societies become more stable, not less. That emotional intelligence reduced conflicts instead of creating them. That maybe there was value in combining traditional order with new understanding. The vote to expel the ambassadors failed. Drex realized then that force would not work. The humans had found a way to spread their ideas that could not be stopped with military might. They did it by helping, by healing, by demonstrating that compassion and strength could coexist. Meanwhile, back in Reformed Council space, the transparency protocols were showing results. The first generation of children born after the reforms grew up watching council sessions, asking questions about governance, and expecting honesty from leaders. Kim Da-eun continued her work at the Echo 7 station, which had been converted into a permanent independent archive. Any species could submit data there for verification. She had inspired dozens of young aliens to pursue careers in data integrity and transparency advocacy. Captain Lee commanded regular diplomatic missions between Council space and the border regions. His crew had become experts at navigating the tense relationship between the two galactic factions. On one of his missions, he found Ambassador Park Min-jun standing in the observation deck of Zenith Prime, watching Earth in the distance. "Do you ever regret what we did?" Lee asked. "We did not just reveal secrets. We fractured the galaxy." Min-jun smiled slightly. "The galaxy was already fractured. We just made the cracks visible. And yes, sometimes I wonder if there was a gentler way. But then I think about what we would have lost by accepting that blockade. Our freedom, our values, our ability to be ourselves. The Sovereignty Alliance will probably exist for centuries," Lee observed. "We have not won." "No," Min-jun agreed. "But we have proven that another way is possible. That is enough. Let history judge which approach builds better civilizations. Let beings choose freely instead of having one path imposed on them. That is all we ever wanted." Across the galaxy, on 23 Alliance worlds, human ambassadors continued their quiet work. On hundreds of Reformed Council worlds, transparent governance slowly became normal. And on Earth, children learned history lessons about the day humanity chose truth over comfort, compassion over fear, and freedom over security. The deleted minutes, once hidden in secret files, now resided in the Echo 7 archive with a note visible to anyone who accessed them. evidence that transparency, though painful, is the foundation of true unity. The Council's fatal move was believing they could govern through hidden control. Humanity's response, choosing truth over vengeance, set a new standard for civilization. Lieutenant Shin Yu-jin sent a report back to Earth from Nexar 4. It ended with a simple observation. They feared what made us human, our capacity to feel deeply, to question authority, to care across boundaries. They tried to contain that. Instead, they gave us a reason to show the galaxy why empathy is not weakness, but the greatest strength any civilization can develop. The work continues. We are making progress, slowly, peacefully, with compassion as our only weapon. The galaxy remained divided. The future remained uncertain. But humanity had made its choice and stood by it. They would rather face honest struggle than accept comfortable lies. They would rather inspire change through example than impose it through force. And in the end, that faith in transparency, in emotional intelligence, in the power of demonstrated compassion proved to be humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy. Not weapons, not technology, but the radical idea that feeling deeply and thinking clearly could coexist, that questioning authority was not rebellion but responsibility, that true strength came from understanding others rather than dominating them. The Council had tried to delete those minutes, to hide their fear of human values, but once released, those values could not be contained. They spread naturally, adopted freely by beings who recognized their worth. That was humanity's victory. Not conquest, not dominance, just the quiet satisfaction of knowing they had given the galaxy a choice it never knew it needed.